Hi YouTube, Mochismo Eugene, another video from Exit Strategy. Welcome. Let's talk about empaths and chosen ones awakened, post-awakening. How you shouldn't allow your kindness to be activated and used as a weakness. And what I'm talking about is when we do things out of the just pure nature of who we are. A lot of times when you do it blindly, it often has dire consequences. And I'm speaking about this not so much because it's something that just happened to me or anything, just speaking in general because it's something that crossed my mind and I thought it was very important to remind you guys of, because even though you are awakened, I think all of us can probably attest to the fact that we have gotten played here or there by a narcissist, or discovered after the fact, after they played us. As minimal as it might have been, when I say played us, used our energy and our good natures as a weakness. To be more specific, you may volunteer. Empaths, we choose to we're givers, we're supporters, we align with things that move society forward. We are not troublemakers, we're not problematic. We are, in fact, we tend to cause a lot of problems because of the fact that we stand on business. We are not easily moved in our decision making, although before we were awakened by narcissistic abuse and became aware of what it was that we were being deceived into by our good nature, we now know that we did things in the past out of the goodness, the nature of our heart, and it didn't work out for us. So back to what I'm saying is a lot of time we all can attest to the fact, even though we've been awakened or we are awakened, we get played here or there. There is there's no perfect man or woman in the world. We will never master the art of detecting deceitful people, because as we know, some of them are cloaked in positions of authority. They have long-standing reputations in our community. They are looked upon and looked up upon by people that we in fact admire. So the people we admire, they are an extension of why we choose to favor that person, who consequently ends up being a narcissist, if you're following me. And even as we watch television, we're seeing developments of different people, and we don't really listen readily to what media says. We watch body language of the people in question, whether or not they're narcissists, which most mainstream media won't mention this. We determine that based on a lot of cues, and those cues are undeniable to us empaths and chosen ones who are awakened. So back to what I was saying, we volunteer still. A lot of us awaken, we find ourselves doing things to try to occupy our time and still give a part of us to other people. And it may be in volunteer work, it may be in home health care, it may be in volunteer work of any sort, like holidays coming up, road races. Here we have marathons. You may want to support that with just giving your time. Be mindful of the company you keep, and be mindful of the energy you allow the time of day. You may not be able to control the dark energy that's around you, but you can dictate the barometer and the intensity of how you will allow that dark energy to pervade your psyche or your space. Because oftentimes, like I said, these people who are existential seemingly good-natured people of friends that we have. So we automatically assume if our friend endorsed them and they're a decent person and they have a long-standing reputation in the community or wherever it should be, we right way take that at face value. Use this as a model for any and every situation and endeavor as an awakened empath. Just take a step back. Be the most authentic you as you can be. But in doing that, be mindful of the energy you attract, because you are a magnet. You are a magnet for both good-natured people like yourself, but most often you heavily attract dark-natured people. So take that step back mentally, psychological, and visually observe. And taking these things into conjunction together, the physical body language, the intuition that's telling you certain things, how zealous these individuals are to come into your space, and how they try to gas you up, and they will even compliment the shirt you're wearing, the dress you're wearing. Total strangers. They'll go from, I like that dress you're wearing, and they'll look at you eye to eye, because they need to determine whether they got you hook, line, and sinker with that compliment. So a lot of times it's in how captivated you are with that compliment that you've been given, how these people seek to leverage themselves into your space. And it goes on from that compliment to, some are even bold enough, and I've said this in times past, they will continue to gas you up. Before you know it, they're asking for your, let's exchange phone numbers, let's be indirectly besties, let's get together sometime, what do you do, let's network. So it's heavily embedded in a lot of the day-to-day things that we somehow, a lot of us sometimes do, which is network, like my business, landscaping and excavation, that, the PR, public relations, whether I'm in the hardware store, I'm always striking up conversations, or conversations are being struck up with me. But the difference is, in an awakened empath state, like I am now, I will seemingly have that same conversation just like I did before I awakened. But the difference is, immediately after that endeavor or that conversation, I will immediately start processing that. I'll start processing that. And it's intuitive to an awakened empath who is vibrating very high. You will immediately start processing what just took place. You won't you won't put that stack of files on the shelf to deal with them later. You would deal with them and process them right then and there. Casually, mentally, nonchalantly. And you'll take in a set amount of cues, and you'll determine, you'll critique that. You critique both your interaction and theirs, and you'll see where this could be a potential legitimate situation. What does this person stand to gain from that conversation? And you actually can do this while you're yet having this conversation, because I'm finding that more so I allow that person who is coming on strong to just continue to state their business. And I'll give them not so much a stoic stare, but I'll give them my undivided attention. I won't give them a nod. I won't give them it will just be in tune and attuned to what they're saying. Because it's kind of like hard to turn off that intuition when you're awakened. You see things that you don't intend to see. When you go out and about and you're interacting, even with your family members, now that you're awakened, you're analyzing different things that you otherwise normally used to never pay attention to. It's kind of like walking through the woods where there's thorns and thistles. You just kind of don't want to get poked. And you're mindful. And it's a healthy mindfulness. It's a very healthy mindfulness when you are beginning to vibrate and elevate as an empath. So don't second guess the fact that you may think that you're a little more highly vigilant than you should be, because however your vigilance is, it's there for a reason. As I said before in the past, we talked ourselves out of what our intuition was steadfastly trying to tell us. And the biggest factor in that is, or the biggest benefit in doing this is, you can always, say for example, imagine or perceive that thing wrong about that person. And you can in turn later down the line give that person a little more of a benefit of a doubt than you did before. You have that option. But if you allow that person to insulate themselves in your life and leverage, like that conversation I mentioned about the dress or the shirt or the watch or the glasses, to insulate themselves into your circle or your space, what happens when the narcissist has already concreted themselves into your space initially, a lot of times so much time goes by and so much time is elapsed, so when it, to the point when you really realize, like I pointed out in the beginning of the video, even being awakened, we've been duped. The longer it goes unnoticed, if you don't notice in the initial stage that they're trying to insulate themselves, the longer this goes, the more the narcissist has situated themselves into your life, into your affairs, into your private matters, into the ins and outs of who you are and how you move and who you're associated with. And thereby, this is what sets up that big major smear when they actually, when you actually discover that you need to distance yourself from this narcissist. You actually stayed in too long. And so they have infected their darkness into your space now. So the quicker you discover or determine that you need to cease and desist with the individual that's trying to insulate themselves with you, the better. There'll always be time to go back and revisit that individual or that circumstance or that business venture that you passed on, if you determine after weighing this out by another set of cues and time progresses that this person isn't what you thought they were in the negative. You're afforded that. But if you do the opposite of that, it could have very dire consequences, because the whole idea of the narcissist coming into your life initially is to do one thing: to destroy you. Whether it's your credibility, job, marriage, relationship with your siblings, friends, business partners that you already have. They come in to knock your deck of cards down. Almost like a little kid at the beach. When one kid is building the sand castle with the little bucket, he is sitting there minding his own business. He's building this angelic building. And he's there with mom and dad, and they're allowing him to just do his thing. He's tedious about this. Then you have another little kid who strays away from his parents, goes over there, and seemingly innocently, goes over to try to interact with the other kid, and even begins to try to help assist him in building this castle. And for some reason or another, something comes over this kid that came over to help, and he begins to kick the castle down. This is a good way to describe how a narcissist's mind is when they meet someone who is in their own space, minding their own damn business. And I also have used an analogy, an example of Susie. Susie, her mom says, Susie, let your friend or let your cousin play with your doll. She wants to play with it. She'll give it back. Susie hands the doll to the little girl. And in 3 seconds or less, Susie reaches out and snatched the doll back for seemingly no apparent reason. And the mom is like livid, like, Susie, why did you do that? She's going to give it back. Many of us can attest to that situation there. And now we know why. Because that little child, Susie, not only does she not have boundaries, she is selfish, self-centered, and she doesn't have the ability to trust that someone is not going to keep something that she allowed them to play with. Now, this can come from a combination of reasons. The parent pretty much could have spoiled Susie to death, which most parents do, and we don't realize that this is a byproduct of what creates a narcissist, to a fault, or she was isolated. One parent gave her what she wanted, the other parent probably had boundaries. It was just an inconsistency of what brought Susie to this point of how she acts or reacts. So this is created. I don't believe narcissists are born. I don't. Because you have free will. Free will denounces that theory. And just like Susie could have free will to snatch the doll when she was encouraged to let the girl play with the doll, she used her free will to snatch it back. Just like any other kid who wouldn't have snatched it back, she would allow her to play with it. With a little bit of resistance, of course, because children are selfish until they learn different varieties of skills and how to allow, sharing. And then you take that into adulthood. It's not about equally sharing. Sometimes you can give a person more than what they give you. But the point being, you don't look at this as they have more than me, I gave them more than me. And a lot of times as kids, we go through that too. Me and my cousins, we used to share stuff, and we would always look at the drink and be like, oh, she got more than me, he got more than me. And these are just the things that we're going through. That's narcissism. Everything's a competition, but you grow out of that. And even when you go into adulthood and it still remains competition, you can compete with somebody in a healthy mindset. You can root for the team that won. You can congratulate the team that won. You're not out to see people hurt or harmed. That being said, blessed.